Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Test. Man. Ready? Good to go.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to begin. Can everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Teaneck Cub Scouts Pack 171.
Face the flag. Salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation.
Please be seated, everyone. Thank you to our Cub Scouts who will be talking to us in a minute. Mr. Clerk, we have a quorum and call this meeting to order at 7:15 p.m. Please call the roll.
Councilman Schwartz, Councilwoman Belcher,
Here.
Councilman Goldberg,
Here.
Councilman Organ,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Katz, Deputy Mayor G,
Here.
Mayor Pagan.
Here.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by resolution number 299-2023, sending a copy and sunshine notice issued by the Township Clerk's Office on September 17th, 2024, sending a copy to the newspapers officially designated for 2024 by way of resolution number 2-2024, filing a copy in the Township Clerk's Office and posting it on the municipal building bulletin board, and the mayor hereby directs that this statement be included in the minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Good evening and welcome everyone to tonight's council meeting. Township Administration present at tonight's meeting are Jacqueline Hashmat, our Township Attorney, Doug Roussillon, our Township Clerk, Scott Salmon, our Township Attorney, and Ron Goodman, our volunteer cable master. For the public's information, we are currently holding a hybrid format meeting. We have people in person and on Zoom. If our Wi-Fi at the municipal building has an issue where the Zoom meeting drops, we will aim to retrieve the connection and continue the meeting. The next televised regular council meeting is on December 10th and begins at 6:30 p.m., with the public portion of that meeting beginning at 8 p.m. Town Hall will be closed on Thursday, November 28th for Thanksgiving and Friday, November 29th. Council met in closed session earlier this evening to discuss the following: contracts, the potential sale of township property, the NJDOT Route 4 project, affordable housing, Teaneck Library renovations, tax billing, legal issues and opinions regarding items on the open session agenda, litigation updates, and Oprah. Our first order of business tonight is a presentation by the Teaneck Cub Scouts Pack 171, and we thank them for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and we look forward to hearing what they have to tell us tonight.
Good evening, Mayor, both deputies, council members, and the community. My name is Jose Zenon, and I am a Cub Scout parent and a community chair for Teaneck newly activated Cub Scout Pack 171. This evening, we are here for a few of the pack leadership volunteer. We have Paul Hollos, Gregory Boris, sorry, William Grifford, and the Teaneck. We also have leadership here from Teaneck 106, Dave Carmichael and Sam Savoy. And the other volunteers is the parents with us. Can you please stand? Most importantly, we all have our special guest, our Cub Scout from Pack 171. We are thrilled and honored to be here before the council and Teaneck community. It's been a long time coming, and we are excited to bring Cub Scout back to Teaneck. We are excited to embark on this new venture with Teaneck community and families. Cub Scouting provides boys and girls from ages kindergarten to 5th grade with invaluable opportunities to develop leadership skills, experience outdoor ventures, and learn the values of teamwork and responsibility. We welcome everyone to please take the time to further learn more about Cub Scouting program. www.scouting.org. You can learn and give you a lot of wealth of information. The PAC meets twice a month, first and third Tuesdays at the American Legion Post 128, located at 650 American Legion Drive, Teaneck. And lastly, we invite you to stay connected with the Cub Scout PAC 171 on the various communication platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube channel, all with the same handle, Teaneck Cub Scout PAC 171. Again, we like to thank you for the opportunity, and we look forward to having your kids or our kids to embark on this venture with your family as we build a strong foundation for our PAC and our community. As our motto goes, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zenon. And thank you to our Cub Scouts and thank you to our parents. Does anyone on council want to say anything to the Cub Scouts before they file out of here on a school night? It's okay. It's okay. It's all right. It's all right. No biggie. No biggie. But thank you. We thank you all for coming so very much.
Thank you.
Y'all have a good night. Thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate you being here. Okay. Thank you all so much. Our next order of business is work session items, and first up is miscellaneous. Does anyone on council have anything under miscellaneous? Seeing no hands, we're moving on. Does anyone have anything? Oh, old business, American Legion Stop and Shop area, Crossroads Development update, Mr. Schwartz.
If we could just motion to put this towards the end of council listed items, you should be here in a second.
I'll second that. We have 4 nodding heads. Alrighty. So new business 2024 best practices inventory. Who listed that?
Oh, Jason.
Isa Basi?
Issa. Hang on, he's coming. He's unmuting. Juggling a couple kids. Issa. There
I'm
he
here.
is.
Hi, good evening.
Oh,
Hello, Mr. CFO.
How are all of you? So I just wanted to go over the 2024 annual best practices checklist, the gift that keeps on giving from the state of New Jersey. Every year since 2010, under former Governor Chris Christie, the best practices checklist is really an inventory, or formerly a checklist, that is meant to basically see if the municipality, if the township is being as efficient as it can be with its resources. The joke we have amongst us CFOs is that these questions are such good best practices that they change 50% year over year. This year's hot button topic was, and get ready for this, Councilman Belcher, affordable housing. No surprise. So basically, the way that it's done is that the CFO, in conjunction with the administrator, township manager, municipal clerk, and other department heads, get together. We go through the questions list. I typically take the lead on it, and we get a final score. The final score is determined based on your answers or responses, and basically the last percentage of your state aid is either withheld or not withheld based on how many questions you have. The highest score was, I believe, 46. We scored 42. So for the 14th consecutive year in a row, and I've done all 14, we are not missing on any state aid, thankfully.
Thank you, Mr. Basi. Does anyone on council have any questions? Ms. Belcher.
No, I just want to thank our CFO for all of the efforts that he and our town manager, Ms. Hashmat, has worked very diligently over the summer up until now as it pertains to affordable housing. As you all know, we have received the rounds as to what our numbers are for the next round of affordable housing 10 years going forward. So I just want to thank you personally, Isa, and also to Mrs. Hashmat. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Belcher. Anyone else on council? No? Thank you, Mr. Basi. You are appreciated.
Oh, you're all welcome. I'll be on for the rest of the
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Mr. Schwartz, you want to go back to old business,
Mhm.
American Legion Stop and Shop area, Crossroads Development Update?
Yes, on behalf of the subzoning committee, unless, Councilman Goldberg, did you want to introduce this or do you want me to introduce this? Over the last 5 or so years, I hope not more, but it may be. We've been working on the American Legion Drive and Beverly Road redevelopment plan. This is a plan that was approved by councils, ANR and I believe a pilot. This had probably well north of a dozen meetings with council, with planning board back and forth, maybe closer to 16, I believe. We then had a community meeting and in the upstairs at the Rhoda Center with some input taken and stuff changed. We then had additional sub-zoning committee meetings, went back to the community for a gym-based Rhoda Center meeting downstairs, opened it up to Zoom as well. Additional changes were then presented to the sub-zoning committee, to which the sub-zoning committee moved or said that we agree with this. We appreciate the changes that were being made. We ask this to be presented now to the council as a whole, because the next steps forward will be the council voting and additional developers agreements. So we invited them here, and as discussed at the last meeting, we set this date and this time for this presentation. But before we call them up, I think Mr. Attorney, can you just give us a little background about the settlement on this and whatnot?
The township settled a lawsuit by Stop and Shop about a year and a half ago or so, maybe a little more than that now. And as part of that settlement, the township is required, or the council is required, to consider in good faith a proposal that had to be made by Stop and Shop. And that's what we're essentially here is we're considering. This is part of that process by which we're considering their application in good faith. But they're actually planning good. Sure, were you able to hear that? Okay, that's better. Okay, so about a year and a half ago, the township entered into a settlement agreement with Crossroads Stop and Shop to settle. Been 2 years now. Okay, time flies. To settle that lawsuit, and as part of that lawsuit, the township, the council is required to consider in good faith the proposal and the redevelopment plan that's going to be offered by Crossroads. And that's really what this is part of us complying with our obligations to consider that application is made by Crossroads.
Anybody else? Or do we call it Mr. Tavel? Mr. Tavel, the floor is yours, sir.
All right. Good evening, Mayor Pagan, members of the council, members of the public. Can you hear me? Okay. So I'm not going to go through all the details and the legalese that have occurred since, I think, 2020, when this sort of started. What I want to talk about are the changes that we've made to the plans since we initially presented a plan to the town, and where we are today. And then I'd like one of the members of Crossroads to come up and go through those plans that we've provided to the township to put on the screen. I know that tonight's meeting, the township is taking no formal action. Nothing is being done here from a legal perspective. But what our goal from this meeting tonight is for the township, based on the plans that we have now, to direct their professional staff to draft a redevelopment plan. But that's going to be up to the township as to whether or not they feel that it's appropriate at this time. So let me go through where we started on these plans and where we are now. So we started with an initial community meeting on July 31st, 2023. That was the first community meeting that we had. So over a year ago. That plan had 364 apartments, 12,000 square feet of commercial space, and 979 parking garage spaces. Some notable items from that initial plan is that the building was 5 stories on Beverly Road and 6 stories at the corner of American Legion Drive and Alma Terrace. So that was, I'll call it iteration number 1. Based on the feedback we received from that meeting, there was also, I think, online comments that could also be made as well. We had a second public meeting on October 2nd, 2023. What happened at that meeting, or what was done in response to those comments? The density was reduced from 364 to 318, so over nearly 50 units were taken out of the project. The number of parking spaces was reduced from 979 to 943. That was based on one, the number of units being reduced, and two, maintaining the ratio that Stop and Shop really wanted as part of the settlement agreement as it relates to parking. The building height on Beverly Road was reduced from 5 stories to 4 stories, and the building height at the corner of American Legion Drive and Alma Terrace was reduced from 6 stories to 4 stories. So there were some considerable changes made in response to public comment as well as zoning subcommittee comment over the course of the first 2 public meetings that we had. So then in March of 2024, per the town's request again, and some additional feedback, as well as a third public meeting that was held in March of 2024, there was a further reduction in height of the Beverly Road garage at the corner from 4 stories to 3 stories. So now that garage is 3 stories. The height of the actual building along Beverly Road was reduced from 4 stories to 3 stories with a 6-foot step back to the 4th story. So it is 4 stories on Beverly, but it was further set back from the road 6 feet. There was also open public amenity space that was added. That was something that I know many council members and many members of the public felt very strongly about. So there was 4,400 square feet of open public amenity space at the corner of Beverly and Garrison that was added. There was also public space added on the southern part of the development, approximately 3,350 square feet at the corner of American Legion Drive and Alma Terrace. Okay, so now that brings me to the plan that we have today. So we met with the zoning subcommittee again. There was some additional public comment as well. So over the course of several zoning subcommittee meetings, 3 public community meetings, we now come down to these final changes that we're going to be presenting tonight. So we further increased the public open space on the corner of Beverly and Garrison. Like I said, it was 4,400 that we were initially proposing. Okay, now we're up to 12,000 square feet of open public amenity space, which is exactly, or what we tried to do is match the farmers market space that they utilize. So that's been increased almost 3 times. And we've increased the depth of that 4th story setback on Beverly Road. As I indicated, it was set back 6 feet. Now it'll be set back 10 feet. So I went through that just so the public, I know this has been going on for quite some time, as well as the council, understand the changes that were made, the good faith efforts that were made to be responsive to public comment, as well as council comment, planning staff's comments from the township as well. So I will call up Anthony Volpe to go through that. What I also wanted to indicate as well is that I think this project, not only will it provide a redevelopment of the parking lots that are there, but it's also going to provide a 15% affordable component. I think TNEC's number, based on the DCA numbers that were released for affordable housing, was a prospective need of over 400 affordable housing units. At 15% of 318, that's going to get at least, I'm not, don't have lawyers do math, but I think there'll be over 40 affordable housing units that'll result from this project, maybe more, that Anthony will go through. Is it more? Councilman Schwartz is of course criticizing my math skills. Okay, so over 50 units of affordables that 40. Okay, that would result from this project. In addition to that, and we are aware of this, we know that there are stormwater management issues in this area of the township. By constructing this project, a lot of those matters would be mitigated, and that would further be refined during the site plan process as well. So I just wanted to point out those additional benefits that would result from the project. So without further ado, I'll call up Mr. Volpe to walk the township council as well as the public through the revised changes that we have. This is a laser pointer.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name's Anthony Volpe. I'm a partner with Crossroads Companies. Can you hear me now? Okay, good. My name is Anthony Volpe. I'm a partner with Crossroads Companies. We're the proposed developer for the redevelopment project that Jason just gave a little background on. Jason actually stole most of my thunder. He went through the highlights, but I just wanted to kind of walk you through the current plan and then be here to answer any questions or any comments that you might have. So starting at the top of the board here, the building that we're referring to as Building C. This building is now 3 stories at the corner of Beverly.
If people are following on Zoom, you're now pointing to the Beverly Road side of the project.
Correct. Yep. So the building is now 3 stories at the corner of Beverly and Garrison right here, which started originally at 5 stories. This is a freestanding parking garage, also at the corner of Beverly and Garrison. Adjacent to that, we have 1 level of parking with 3 levels of residential above that. The building heights vary from, again, 3 at the corner of Beverly and Garrison, closer to 4 stories in the middle, and then at the corner, as you go down to the longer residential frontage on Beverly, you have that 3 stories with the 4-story step back, which is now 10 feet behind. So that building has a total of 96 apartments, 12,000 square feet of commercial space, 590 garage spaces, and the public open space, which is now 12,000 square feet located at the corner of Beverly and Garrison again. And that would be fully landscaped and designed to accommodate the farmers market as well as anything else that the town would like to see there. So moving across Cedar Lane down to American Legion, we have the building we refer to as Building A. This building started out as 6 stories. It's now been reduced to 4 stories. We have a 1-level parking garage with 3 levels of residential above that. The total apartments in this building would be 94 with 149 parking spaces. And again, there is more public open space. There's a second plaza, which is a little over 3,000 square feet. You can't see it from this angle. It fronts Alma Terrace, and we have other graphics that we can show that closer to you. And then moving further down south on American Legion Drive, we're at Building B. This is a 6-story building. We have 2 levels of parking with 4 levels of residential above that, 128 apartments and 170 parking spaces. In addition, just something to point out that may have got lost in translation. Crossroads is currently the owner of this property right here that is not depicted on this graphic, but it's commonly referred to as the Buddhist Center. That would be sold in exchange for the land where Building B sits. It would be demolished so that the Stop and Shop store would get increased circulation in their parking lot, closer spaces to their store, as well as increased frontage and visibility. And it kind of really opens up the entire redevelopment area. So again, Jason went over this, but the currently proposed plan, which has been revised, I think this is on its 4th official revision, is 318 total apartments, which would result in 48. That's at 15%, 873 garage spaces, 61 street spaces, 12,000 square feet of commercial, and over 15,000 square feet of newly built public open space.
The owner would obviously coordinate with all local organizations regarding the open space and what.
Jason, if you can, please speak into the microphone.
Sorry. So part of the intent, Anthony, of the open space is for local organizations, charities, civic organizations to be able to utilize that as in the event that they need it like they do today.
Yeah, that's correct. And after the first iteration of the public open space, we had a direct dialogue with a representative from the farmers market. And so they were able to help guide us a little bit. And we were able to basically replace almost square foot for square foot what they currently use today in the parking lot, which would house a full farmers market, 25 to 30 tents, and also for other uses when the farmers market is not using it.
And also I just want to make sure we're clear. And it goes without saying that with respect to the affordable units, they would be integrated throughout the buildings. We'd comply with all the Uniform Housing Control Act regulations in terms of low and moderate incomes. That would all be part of the project, and you would work with the township's affordable housing administrator on that as well.
That's correct. And they would also be the same finishes as the market rate units. We don't do different finishes for the affordables.
Thank you, gentlemen. Does anyone on council have any questions for Mr. Tavell and Mr. Volpe?
I
Ms.
just have
Goldberg.
one question. Wasn't there additional community space inside?
So that is something that was proposed at the zoning subcommittee, and we would be happy to accommodate. We have typically anywhere from 3,500 to 6,000 or 7,000 square feet of amenity space in each building. So we're happy to reserve some space for the town to be used, and we can memorialize that in a redevelopment agreement.
You had your hand up.
Beautiful job. Thank you very much for the presentation. I do have one question. We embarked on this journey initially because someone came to us and wanted to spend some significant amount of money and enhance Cedar Lane and make it, look different than it has been looking since 1946. And then that's when we realized we had a parking problem. Now I realize also, obviously, probably people have less cars today with all different driving apps. But still, it's important for any business district to thrive and succeed to have parking. I see that you have 873 spaces, but that was cumulative. And then the question I have is, number one, is that all accessible to shoppers? How many spots are we giving up for you to have the 873?
So the answer to that is a little bit of a moving target. We can, as developer, we're open to structuring that however the town would like to see it, as long as we can physically fit it. So this plan that you're currently seeing today, what we would propose is the parking garage areas that are located in Building C on Beverly and Garrett. Sorry, yep. Both in the freestanding garage and also in the podium below. That is a total of 590 parking spaces. We have in this building the 96 apartments, which are going to need parking spaces, as well as the 12,000 square feet of commercial space, which is really reserved as a relocation area for our tenant that's currently on American Legion. So that's a total of approximately 140 spaces that we would need to serve the building at a minimum. So everything that's left over would be 100% public parking. And then we could also potentially enter into a parking shareman agreement as well as part of the redevelopment agreement. So
Indicate how many spaces.
so that would leave around 450 spaces that would be purely public parking
That side.
on that side.
Side?
On this side, it's really driven by the need for the residential buildings as well as the settlement agreement that we all entered into. And that really would be limited for private use in these buildings. We did design street parking on American Legion Drive. I believe it's 36 spaces. And we can actually look to incorporate more throughout the entire redevelopment area if the town would be interested in that. But as currently designed, these would be private spaces.
How many spots are in those two lots today if you didn't build anything?
Approximately 380, give or take.
So you're giving the town an extra 100 and something spots.
Approximately, yeah. And
Yeah, no, I just wanted to get an idea.
yeah. And that's at the request of the town. We're happy if the town feels like it's too much, we can scale that back. Unfortunately, we are kind of maxed out. We couldn't really go higher than that. It would be challenging to go higher than that.
Was there ever a consideration to not to look at building the buildings individually rather than all three at once? I appreciate all the edits that were made, lowering the heights in response to the community feedback. But, in looking at building C specifically, for me, I still feel that it's very awkward to build around those 3 single family homes. And again, to have these very tall buildings across the street from clearly single family residential zone. So was there any consideration to propose a revised plan that did not include building C?
So to answer your first question, the answer is yes. We actually are planning to build this in phases if it's approved. So it would not all be built at once. Building C on Beverly actually is slated to be the first phase, and that is because that's where all of the replacement parking goes. And that was a decision made by all four parties who were party to the settlement agreement, that everyone felt the parking should be over there for multiple reasons, including shoppers as well as other considerations. In terms of the scale of that side, totally understand your point, and we're sensitive to that, which is why we've tried our best to scale it down as much as possible. These buildings are now essentially 3 stories at street view, which in the grand scheme of things is pretty, it's still taller than what exists across the street in the single family, but it's a lot more close than what it originally was.
Ms. Belcher?
Okay, thank you for your presentation tonight. I just want to return to the discussion about parking. Parking is of course a concern in terms of any site plan that we bring into town. But can you speak to traffic, the impact of traffic? And I know that doesn't come up until a site plan kind of happens before the planning board and experts are called in. But one of the concerns that I've heard from the community is how can we possibly manage the increase in the number of cars that this potentially would represent, given the current traffic patterns? We are, residential streets and so forth. How would you respond to that?
So we did have a preliminary traffic study done. And we would, of course, have a full-blown study done in conjunction with further design. I am not a traffic expert, so I couldn't give you the right answer tonight, but we'd be happy to incorporate that, both the current study and the future studies, into the next phase of the process.
Okay, so something.
And I was going to say, as part of that analysis, when it would get to site plan, if there were off-track improvements necessitated by the development that were based on the traffic report, or that were based on something that the board's traffic professionals needed, we would have to pay our pro rata share of that or construct the improvements. That would be something that would be done as part of the site plan process. So it's not as if, while you're approving, the township council were to approve the project or the density, we would still be responsible during the site plan phase to deal with any of those issues that would result from any of those analyses that would be done.
Thank you for that. One other question. When we speak about the 46 affordable housing units, of course, we certainly like to hear that. But how would you speak to looking at this project as not just being a apartment, some 318 apartments coming in to town? Have you done an analysis on purchase for the number of young people and seniors that are downsizing that may perhaps not want to rent but want to purchase? Has that factored into your analysis?
Yes. The short answer is, when you say purchase, I assume you're referring to condominiums.
Condominiums, yeah.
It's the condominium market from a financial perspective is very challenging, especially in the suburbs. And when you get into the scales of this kind of project, it's something that really, unfortunately, wouldn't be financially feasible in a project like this. Condominiums are generally more successful when they're boutique projects, smaller in scale, because of the risk that goes with market fluctuations. So this is really a prime area, an example for downtown redevelopment, which really lends itself to luxury rentals with, of course, an affordable component. And, those renters, they're middle to higher income renters. They're going to be spending a lot of dollars in the local economy on Cedar Lane and other parts of Teaneck. And it's really going to help to revitalize the whole area. And that will lead to future more boutique for sale product to come into Teaneck. But that's typically the way we see the cycles work.
Okay, I would just kind of slightly disagree with you on one point, and that would be potentially 318 units of individual tax bills. So what would that mean to our township in terms of tax revenue? So I would just would love to see that as potentially an analysis as to what it could mean. I know for a developer, you're looking at profit and so forth, but what would it mean to us as a township?
Understood. And actually, we're not just focusing on profit. It's a risk reward equation essentially. On paper, condominiums would theoretically make a developer more money, but again, they're extremely challenging to finance and they come with a high risk profile. We estimate that this project will generate over $1 million in tax rateables to the town, which is pretty substantial when 2 of the 3 properties are not generating any taxes today.
Sorry. And just remember, as part of the redevelopment process, we're going to have to provide a financial pro forma to the township for your review. And you're, of course, going to hire your own professional financial consultant to review it to determine if our numbers make sense or if you have any comments to it. So we're going to have to go through that process.
Ms. Organ.
Is there a detailed, a detailed rendering of building C that we can see?
We do have an architectural elevation. I think it's the
I think that's
3rd slide.
that's the biggest concern. That's the building that faces neighbors' homes. Also, right now, we're in the middle of working with our engineer, the township engineer, on a multi-phased flooding plan for that area, and this development would have to fit in with that plan. And so any development here would have to work, you would have to work with the engineer on some kind of developer's agreement where there would have to be an understanding that anything that would be put in this lot would have to not only not add to flooding in that area, but actually help mitigate the flooding problem there. And so the next step before any development would take place here would probably require a meeting with the township engineer and the township manager. And also there is a small subcommittee of neighbors who live there, not a whole, not the whole town again, but there is a small subcommittee of neighbors who have been working on that and trying to figure out with the engineer what a next step would be when the water comes rushing towards Cedar Lane past their homes, where it would go from there. So if you would be open to that, it would be great if we could set that up.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're 100% on board with supporting the infrastructure improvements that are going to need to take place as part of this project and also to help the current situation. This project actually reduces impervious coverage on these lots, which is a benefit to your stormwater management. And
It may require pumps and tanks. So it's something
Again,
that
we'll
is
have-
above my pay grade, but yeah.
We're,
Okay.
we're happy to have our civil team look into it.
Okay.
And these things, the stormwater, the drainage, further design comments, the traffic, all of that, we're happy to incorporate into the next phase in the process, which is the drafting of a redevelopment plan. And that's typically earlier than we would do it, but we understand the importance to the town and we've all been at this a long time. And we're eager to move the ball forward. And so we're willing to do some of those things a little bit earlier and work with your professionals during that process.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, this is a architectural elevation of the building on Beverly Road. So starting at the right side of the page, the right top, we have the parking garage. You can see it's 3 stories at the corner. The natural grade actually slopes down, which gives us an additional story towards the bottom here. Moving towards the middle of Beverly, it's 4 stories. And then as you move towards the left of the top, this is where the setback area would start. So you would see if you were standing at a street, this view is set back quite a bit. But if you were standing at a street view, you'd really be looking at this 3rd story right here, and you wouldn't be able to see the 4-story step back. The design in its current phase is meant to be a mixture of both traditional and modern. But again, this is architecture is something we're very open to working with your professionals on. If there's different architecture schemes that the town would like to see, again, we're happy to incorporate that into the redevelopment plan as well.
Ms. G.
Have you had a chance to connect with the owners of those 3 homes in the middle of that setup?
We have not. We did make outreach early in the process, but it never went anywhere.
I think, again, if this plan is to move forward with this design, which I still feel feels very awkward, it would make sense to connect with them to figure out like what kind of buffers they would need to feel comfortable with this setup.
Absolutely.
Does anyone else on council have any questions for Mr. Volpe or Mr. DeVell? No? Thank you, gentlemen, for your time and your presentation.
Wait, Mr. Mayor, one question just to piggyback off of what Councilwoman Organ said. So in the Beverly lot, there's this sewer pipe. So I just want to make sure that, I guess, the cover up what Councilwoman Organ said, that you do meet with the engineer to make sure that there is accessibility to that sewer pipe underneath. I think it's in the Beverly lot or I'm not sure where it is, but it cuts across. We have to have access to that. So I want to make sure that one, you're aware of that in your plans, and two, that you do include the engineer in your discussions there.
Yeah, that's fine. And we could even include whatever improvements are agreed upon with your engineer as exhibits to the redevelopment agreement, as specific conditions in the redevelopment agreement. So we're happy to initiate those conversations, once the township wants the plan to move forward.
Thank you, council, and thank you, gentlemen. We're going to move back to new business. Does anyone on council have anything under new business aside from what we already discussed? No? Moving on. I'm sorry, go ahead, Deputy Mayor G.
It's kind of new business. It's also kind of I guess a liaison report. Hold on. Computer died. So I wanted to acknowledge that this week, the Board of Education will be celebrating Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day at Benjamin Franklin Middle School. And it will be on November 14th at 9 a.m. The Board of Education will also be reading a resolution on Wednesday to recognize November 14th as Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day every year. We found out about this a little bit too late to introduce a resolution of our own, but I would like to read it right now for the record. I think it's a really special idea. Hold on one second. All right. A resolution designating November 14th of each year as Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day with appropriate programs and activities across all schools within the Teaneck Public School District. Whereas on November 14th, 1960, 6-year-old Ruby Bridges walked to school and integrated the first elementary school in the South. And whereas Ruby Bridges was born on September 8th, 1954 to parents Lucille and Aben Bridges and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana. And whereas in 1954, the United States Supreme Court issued the landmark ruling in Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas, ending racial segregation in public schools. And whereas numerous southern states, including Louisiana, failed to integrate their public schools following the United States Supreme Court's ruling. And whereas in 1960, a federal court ordered Louisiana to desegregate their public schools beginning on November 14th of that year. And whereas Ruby Bridges passed the entrance exam for the then all-white public William Frantz Elementary School. And whereas on November 14th, 1960, Ruby Bridges and her mother were escorted by federal marshals to the William Frantz Elementary School, where Ruby faced violent protesters. And whereas Ruby Bridges experienced blatant racism from protesters and parents every day throughout her first year of attendance at William Frantz Elementary. And whereas Ruby Bridges had to be taught in a classroom by herself as all other students were pulled out at the request of their parents. And whereas Ruby Bridges had to remain separate from the other children and was not allowed to go to the cafeteria or outside for recess. And whereas despite these hardships, Ruby Bridges never missed a day of school, and by the end of her first year, the school decided to admit more African-American children the following year. And whereas Ruby Bridges' active bravery inspired America and paved the way for other African-American children across the country. And whereas famous painter Norman Rockwell depicted Ruby Bridges walking to school in his painting, The Problem We All Live With, which was endured as one of Rockwell's most renowned pieces. And whereas Ruby Bridges became a lifelong activist for racial equality by establishing the Ruby Bridges Foundation in 1999, which uses educational initiatives to promote tolerance and unity among school children. And whereas Ruby Bridges has gained numerous accolades for her life's work, including the Carter G. Woodson Book Award and the honorary title of Deputy Federal Marshal. And whereas it is fitting for the state of New Jersey to designate November 14th as Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day to celebrate the courage of young Ruby Bridges and the impact her actions had on African-American children across America. Now therefore be it resolved by the Teaneck Board of Education on November 14th of each year will be designated as Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day with appropriate programs and activities across all schools within the Teaneck Public School District. This resolution shall take effect immediately. So this Thursday, they're encouraging everyone to wear purple and walk to school in celebration of the bravery of Ruby Bridges. So I just wanted to share that with all of you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor G. Does anyone else have anything under new business? No, moving on. Communications? Anyone have? Yes, Deputy Mayor G.
No, I have committee report, sorry.
Anybody else with communications? No? Moving along, committee reports. First up, Senior Citizens Advisory.
Yes. So the Senior Citizens Advisory Board puts out an annual report to the council every year. It's in your agenda packet, but I want to read it for the record to acknowledge the great work that they do. I've never worked with a more committed committee group, or I shouldn't say that because I have ABCR as well, but they are a very committed advisory board. They work very well together and they are very effective, and they have a long list of accomplishments this year. So I'm just going to read them out really quickly. In 2023 to 2024, they were able to reinstate computer classes at the Rhoda Center. They introduced digital workshops and troubleshooting. They continued their Holy Name lecture series featuring MD presentations. They expanded Teaneck Police Senior Awareness Seminars. They introduced social recreational games such as Scrabble, chess, and crosswords. They began the Bernard Brooks Park refurbishment. They were able to get benches built in that park, and they replaced the gravel with blacktop. They helped advocate for the commencement of the Phelps Park renovation, replacing the dugouts, repaving the walking path. They helped to reinstate self-funded trips to Broadway matinees and other venues. They assisted seniors with applications for independent living at 1371 Teaneck Road. They appropriated township funds for the advisory boards, buses for senior trips as an example. And in partnership with the League of Women Voters and the Senior Citizens Advisory Board, they promoted voter registration. For 24 to 25, they have identified some new goals. They would like to secure a page in the Teaneck Times for senior resources. They'd like to reinstate the annual senior showcase. They'd like to research the plausibility of a 55-plus senior citizen apartment building. They'd like to reinstate monthly movies at the senior center, reinstate cerebral games, gymnastics, trivia contests, and puzzles. They want to reintroduce the library and book club monthly. They want to achieve 2 senior field trips. They would like to see the MJ musical. They'd like to introduce mental health senior seminars, age-friendly seminars, a jewelry making class, introduce chorus, hand needlework, Nixle training, garden club outreach, town hall meetings, senior parking lot lines, and handicap markings repainted, and bring in some additional classes like ballroom dancing, stretch fitness classes. So I read that out loud because I want you all to be aware of all the hard work that goes on behind the scenes by our volunteers who serve on our advisory boards. Many terms are expiring at the end of this calendar year. I just want to remind folks, if you're interested in volunteering, now's the time to apply. It really is a phenomenal way to get involved in the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Ms. Belcher.
Okay, just have a couple things. Thanks for that, Deputy Mayor. Just in terms of a couple of committees that I am involved with, the Teaneck Historic Preservation Commission. Many of you may have see some of the markers. We have some new markers on some properties throughout town. So we're really making great progress with that. Not only do I want to thank the Historic Preservation Commission, but also DPW, which has been very instrumental in helping to put those markers up. Also want to remind people that while the library is closed, we do have an interactive historical map on our website so that you can visit that and you can see different historic sites that the map references. And lastly, I just want to mention that the Teaneck Chamber of Commerce is having their annual fundraiser this Thursday. I believe there are still tickets available. So anyone that wants to attend, please reach out to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Belcher. Mr. Schwartz.
Just on my committees, one, the zoning subcommittee has not met in the past since our last meeting, and the Cedar Lane Management Group will be meeting tomorrow night at 6:30 on Cedar Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Ms. Organ.
The library board met this week. For anybody who's interested in how construction is going, you can look on Facebook under the library's page and on the library website. There are pictures so you can watch the progression. Also, for anybody who's been visiting neighboring Buckles libraries, you may see familiar faces of our librarians. They are working on in neighboring libraries. Yesterday, Patriotic Observance Advisory Board held the Veterans Day celebration on the municipal green, and that is on Facebook as well. And the Fields Advisory Board held its first meeting last month. So representatives from all of the sports teams met on Zoom to start discussing what next steps will be to start planning which fields may need to be updated and which steps to take going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Organ. Ms. G?
I forgot to mention that Personnel Subcommittee met on Friday to interview just over 40 candidates for the open positions on our advisory boards. We still need to reconnect with some folks whose terms are expiring just to ensure that they do want to continue serving in their terms. So we'll be back to the full council with recommendations for who we should bring back to interview by the whole council. More to come.
Thank you, Ms. G. Next order of business is council listed items, and first up is the Open Public Meetings Act. Councilwoman Belcher.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to mention that one of the things that we had talked about as a governing body is that through our attorney, that we want to provide resources to our various advisory boards in terms of running meetings and being efficient and effective in terms of how our meetings are run. And the one thing I just want to say about the Open Public Meeting Act is that I would just ask our attorney to include details in that training that you do provide, because I believe we all can benefit from knowing more about the Open Public Meeting Act. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Ms. Belcher. Next up is our manager's report, Ms. Hashmat.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Council and Teaneck residents. Our 2025 preliminary budget hearings open to the public were held last week with all department heads. These hearings gave us a first look at the department requests for 2025 operating budget. The township's menorah lighting is scheduled for December 26th at 5:30 p.m. on the municipal green, and additional details will be posted later this week. Our holiday tree lighting is scheduled for December 5th. Event details will also be posted by the end of the week. Our annual Thanksgiving food drive is currently underway. Items will be accepted from November 1st through November 18th. Drop-off locations and requested items are listed on our website and social media for your convenience. The next planning board meeting in reference to the master plan is scheduled for December 12th at 7:30 p.m. at the Rhoda Center. Please see our website for additional details and documentation. The township holiday schedule is now including Juneteenth. The holiday will be observed on Thursday, June 19th, so that our township offices will be closed that day. 2 meetings ago, council requested the research of additional EV charging stations for the township. Deputy Manager Verley has since been researching and confirmed that we have conduit in our Beverly and River Road parking lot and 2 units in our Court and Queen Anne Road parking lot. One company has provided extensive information and has recommended EV chargers to also be placed on Cedar Lane. These EV chargers have screens that actually display advertisements. So this on Cedar Lane, it would be also helpful for advertising. And this would be an annual revenue for around $4,000 per year per unit. We are looking to install anywhere from 4 to 6 units. They are free installation. It provides 7 kilowatts of free charging to all charging stations upon charging, and also they fund all operating costs and maintenance. The Department of Public Works has been actively engaged in leaf collection throughout the town. Currently, 8 crews are deployed across 4 quadrants of the town, with 2 crews assigned to each quadrant. As of November 7th, DPW successfully completed its first pass collecting leaves throughout the town. To date, a total of 4,400 cubic yards of leaves have been collected. Crews continue to work efficiently with regular operating hours from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday, and 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturdays. Additional passes will be conducted in the coming weeks as part of our ongoing leaf collection program. We will continue to monitor progress and provide further updates as necessary. For real-time information on leaf collection, residents can visit the town's website, click on Maps, and select a leaf collection to view the current status of collection in your area. Please do not hesitate to contact the DPW or my office for any additional information or if you have specific inquiries of areas that may have leaf piles that need attention. Our DPW remains committed to getting this job done. I'd like to mention that the weather this year has been exceptionally warm. The leaves have fallen very late and we have had no rain. This has affected our leaf collection efforts. If you could please be patient with us, just let us know if you have any questions or if you need extra attention and we'll tend to the leaves on your street. The Cedar Lane paving project has been updated several times. The ADA ramps and concrete work will be completed this week and the milling is scheduled for Monday, November 8th. Notifications and proper signage will be in place. I did speak with the county today and the signboards should be up tomorrow or on Thursday. Alternate routes are suggested for next week and the following week because traffic will, you will have detours in the area. Our annual toy drive is scheduled for November 15th to December 13th. Drop-off locations are listed on our website and a holiday gathering for family pickup is scheduled for December 19th at the Rhoda Center. Some grant update information for you. This past month, the township received an in-kind grant through SNY Play Ball, New York Jets football grants program for a clinic with players from the New York Jets for Teaneck Junior football. We also submitted an application for Firehouse Subs Foundation and Leary Firefighters Foundation. We are preparing applications for the New Jersey Division of Highway Traffic Safety, Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over year-end holiday crackdown. Lastly, we applied for the NJDEP Green Acres Park Development Grant and Jake's Law Program. These grants will be displayed at our next council meeting on December 10th. We will display the concept plans and proceed with the application process. Moving on to some project updates, the Voti Park restroom buildings will be delivered this month. The Belle Ave drainage project continues in the design phase. I've remained in constant communication with the EPA, and I have updated the Belle Ave residents as to the status of the administrative delays that are still in place. They have assured me that our final grant award is in the near future. Herrick Park project update, our baseball field and basketball court drainage and grading has been completed. The layout of the fields is underway over the next few weeks. Prefab bathrooms are scheduled for delivery this month as well. The splash pad and playground delivery dates are still pending, but the playground equipment is ordered. In addition, we realize that many residents are looking for park project updates on our website. So our township engineer is going to, within the next 4 weeks, have a link on our website. On that link, you'll be able to click and get any updates on our park projects as they're moving along. The Palisades Avenue Improvement Project. The scope of this project includes roadway improvements along Palisade Avenue from West Englewood Avenue to Tryon Avenue. The improvements consist of the installation of drainage structures, spot fixes for curbs, and driveway aprons, reconstruction of ADA ramps, and milling, paving of the entire project area. They will also install a crosswalk at Ayers Court. Some additional updates from last meeting, Grayson and Prince. I know that there have been requests in this area for blinking stop signs. They have since been installed. We have also ordered 2 solar speed signs for the area, and they will be installed within the next 3 to 4 weeks. Rumble strips and a 4-way stop are not recommended by the police department at this time. Decatur, we are still waiting DOT to put the pavement markings in place, and I will continue to update you once that's done. Last meeting, I was also asked about greenhouse funding, and I was able to contact our grant writer. In speaking with them, there is federal appropriations, a federal appropriation process coming out in February, so we are going to monitor that and see if we can apply. And they are also doing some research for some other options to upgrade our greenhouse. A friendly reminder to sign up for township alerts on our front page of our website. It's the most efficient way for us to keep all the residents informed. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Ms. Hashmat, Mr. Salmon, Attorney's report.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a couple of ordinances on the agenda for introduction, and I want to highlight one of them in particular, Ordinance 30-2024. This ordinance is a comprehensive overhaul of the application process for our land use boards, as well as the escrow fees that applicants are charged. In drafting this ordinance, we looked at a number of other municipalities, including Fairlawn, Flemington, Fort Lee, Hackensack, Lambertville, Montclair, North Brunswick, Parsippany, Ridgewood, and Wayne to figure out what worked best and what practices they take from those other places. Planning and zoning boards have long had issues with applicants showing up to meetings and showing off documents first time at the hearing, with the board members and the public unable to review them in advance. It has also created problems when we get requests for those documents under Oprah, because the township may not have copies of those documents or files because they would be shown at the hearing. This ordinance is going to ensure that all application documents are received before the hearings are even scheduled, and will ensure that they are made available to the public electronically as well. The ordinance also transfers the burden of paying for our professionals from the township to applicants through an overhaul of our escrow fee system, which could save the township as much as $500,000. As it stands now, the township whole has been paying a significant amount of money for our professionals to review individual applications, when those costs should be paid for by the applicants, which is what is done in virtually every other town in New Jersey. So this ordinance is going to significantly increase public transparency of our land use applications, while also saving the township a significant amount of money. So I would encourage the council to eventually adopt. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Salmon. Our next order of business is our public hearing and adoption of ordinances. Mr. Clerk, can you please read the title of the ordinances into the record?
Yes, sir, Mayor. We have a few ordinances this evening for second reading. From the past, we have ordinance number 45-2023, amending the township code for the township of Teaneck to enact a new section establishing and regulating accessory dwelling units. We have ordinance number 26-2024, amending section 36-11.2 of chapter 36 of the township code for the township of Teaneck, adding restricted on-street parking spaces for handicap at 987 Richard Court. We have ordinance number 25-2024, amending section 36-11.2 of chapter 36 of the township code for the township of Teaneck, adding restricted on-street parking spaces for handicap at 144 Lees Avenue. We have ordinance number 27-2024, authorizing a special emergency appropriation in the amount of $690,000 pursuant to NJSA 48:4-53H for the payment of contractually required severance liabilities of the township in the county of Bergen, state of New Jersey. Mayor, that is all.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Does anyone else have any questions or
Mr.
comments
Mayor-
before we open the public
Mr. Mayor,
hearing?
I want to make a motion to table 45-2023 pending the master plan.
Discussion.
No, I'll ask you.
Discussion. I believe that we've kicked this ADU ordinance down the road quite a bit. Just like we're entertaining other things like a potential development on Stop and Shop. I don't know why we would not entertain the ADU ordinance and yet be willing to talk about a development plan. The ADU ordinance here again, and I've said it many times, is it's a private owner initiative. It is an opportunity for our homeowners to basically take advantage of intergenerational housing. So we've kicked this can down the road quite a bit, but yet we're willing to entertain a Stop and Shop development of over 300 units in the middle of town. So I would encourage that we do not table it, but that we stand up to it and we adopt it and move forward. Thank you.
Mr. Schwartz.
Just a point of information, there's a motion on the floor to table, which should have a second, and then there's
I
no
know, but there hasn't been
discussion.
a second yet, and so
Yeah.
she raised
So-
her hand and then he raised his hand, so until. there's a
I'll jump
second-
in. As I've said before, I think this is an excellent ordinance. I'm very much in favor of the ADUs. And you are absolutely correct that we said we were, where we're not really going. We're not executing anything, whether it be Stop and Shop, whether it be a new pilot or a new A&R until the master plan's done. And can you just give us an update? And I don't know if this is out of order on how we're looking at the master plan. I don't know if you. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So sitting on the planning board, in terms of the master plan, one of the main issues has been finding the time to actually meet collectively. As we all know, we've had observed quite a few holidays in town. So the calendar has been very challenging in terms of dates, finding dates for everyone collectively as a board to get together. So essentially, we do have a date in December in which we are working and hopefully have been able to finalize. One of the issues was that, the planner had actually identified issues that the community had brought up. We had asked that those items be placed into the actual document. Initially, they were placed individually as a list of items, but as a board, we wanted to see them incorporated in the master plan. So that is what we're looking toward in the next meeting. So the reason why we're looking for things seem to be delayed a bit is simply because a calendar issue and really trying to incorporate all of the wonderful comments that our community has had about the master plan.
Yeah, okay, so I'm going to stick to what we all agreed with. I do not think an agreement, developers agreement should not be signed as it relates to Stop and Shop, nor should ADUs pass until the master plan is signed. You're absolutely right. They're one and the same. We haven't done it and we haven't signed anything. So I'm going to stick to that because that's what we had agreed on. But I will also say that the master plan has now been going on for about 15, 16 months. We had a great steering committee and that was turned over to, I believe, to the town in early May or late April. So now we're going on 6 months. Community involvement is important, but I please urge, and I think you're both on the planning board. It's now been 6 months. Find the time, and find the time. I know we had I know we have holidays, but now what we're going to do is now we're going to start saying, well, then it's Thanksgiving, and then we're going to start saying, rightfully so, there's New Year's, Hanukkah, Christmas, are all the same week. That's excellent. That gives us 3 weeks in the beginning of December. That gives us the entire January. But if this starts going past January, I'm gonna start getting very cranky because then it's gonna become about 9 months, and now it's gonna be up to 18 months.
Please don't interrupt. Please don't interrupt. In the audience, please remain silent. Please don't interrupt. Mr. Schwartz, the floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, I'm gonna get cranky and I'm gonna interrupt you when you speak. So please stop. I don't interrupt you. So we've had months upon months upon months. So I please urge, and I'm going to live up to that word, but at a certain point, it's going to be 18 months, and that's going to be a little bit stretching over here. We have development that needs to go through, and we have revenue that needs to be seen, and we have budget increases. So that's my piece. So I urge that we do not sign any developers agreement, and we do not sign any ADUs until that's done.
Anybody else?
I'm just going to renew my motion to
No,
table.
I know you need a second though.
To table until the completion of the master plan, there was a first from Councilwoman Goldberg and a second from Councilman Schwartz. Councilman Schwartz, Councilwoman Belcher,
No.
Councilman Goldberg,
Yes.
Councilman Organ,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Katz,
No.
Deputy Mayor G,
No.
Mayor Pagan,
Yes, because I have faith in our planning board.
tabled.
All right, the public hearing on these ordinances are now open. Any members of the public wishing to be heard on any of these ordinances and these ordinances alone will be called on and will state their names for the record. Comments or questions shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. If you are on Zoom, please list your first name and your last name so that you can be called on. And if you are also on Zoom, please turn your camera on when possible, if possible, when you are addressing council. Thank you. Who would like to go first? Anyone on just these ordinances? Seeing no hands in chambers. Anybody on Zoom, Doug? No. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Rose, on these ordinances, sir. So nobody on Zoom, so just Mr.
On just the
Rose.
ordinances, ADUs have been tabled.
All right, the public hearing is closed. In that case, I make a motion to approve all ordinances.
Second.
Councilman Schwartz, Councilwoman Belcher,
Yes.
Councilman Goldberg,
Have to Abstain. Sure. So I am abstaining on 26, 2024, yes on 25, and abstaining on 27.
26 and 27, you're abstaining. Yes. Councilwoman Morgan,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Katz,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor G.
Yes.
Mayor Pagan.
Yes.
All adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Our next order of business.
Thank you.
Our next order of business is good and welfare. Any member of the public wishing to be heard will be called on and will state their names for the record. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Again, if you're on Zoom, please list your first name and your last name if you want to be called on, and please turn your camera on when addressing council. Who would like to go first? Ms. Arjumand.
Hi, Shanaz, longtime Teaneck resident. Want to speak about the development plan around American Legion. There are several gaps in the master plan and the development plans. Teaneck master plan is 124 pages with no quantifiable research to substantiate its benefits, which should serve as a guide to development plans for Teaneck. The development plan fails to recognize that in Southwest Teaneck American Legion neighborhood, there are 5 schools and daycare centers with current enrollment of 974 children. Additionally, there are 6 religious organizations and cultural centers. This results in continuous traffic on weekdays and weekends. There has not been a comprehensive traffic study showing the impacts to our neighboring town of Bogota, as well as the residents of in that neighborhood. The plan fails to mention congestion that will arise when a roadway system approaches vehicle capacity, resulting in numerous negative impacts ranging from wasted fuel and increases in tailpipe emissions, which multiple studies concluded that congestion leads to annual economic burdens. Also, the plan does not state the impact to New Jersey Transit, as many people commute to New York City. We currently have about 1,900 bus runs on weekdays and are packed during peak hours. Most importantly, the plan fails to address environmental and health impacts. The air quality needs to be addressed since American Legion is by railroad tracks, and we know that passenger vehicle emits about 4.6 metric tons of carbon dioxide per year, and the development plan is to double that traffic. Teaneck already accounts for 9.1% of asthma-related emergency visits, and the increase in traffic will impact air quality, and the plan fails to mention the impact to the already burdened healthcare system. Overall, the plan fails to align with its own goal of preserving the character of existing low-density residential neighborhoods with buildings taller than the single-family homes in our backyard. The plan fails to recognize the current 974 children enrolled in schools, fails to address the congestion, fails to address traffic impacts to neighboring towns, fails to address environmental and health impacts, fails to plan for impact to New Jersey Transit, healthcare system, and other services, and fails to enhance quality of life for Teaneck residents. We, the neighbors of American Legion, ask the council to revisit the plan, consider adding a floor to the buildings on the Cedar Lane instead of building on new lots, and address all of these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Arjumand. Folks on Zoom.
Bring in Sophia Krantz. Bring in Sophia Krantz. Sophia, you are free to unmute.
Hi, I'm Sophia, and I wanted to ask the council about 2 different issues today. One of which being I know we had discussed the leaf piles earlier in the meeting, and I want to know if something can be done so that leaf piles aren't able to accumulate for weeks on end until they're able to get picked up. It's become a little hazardous almost to drive along these streets. I live in Northwest Teaneck. It's really difficult when you have to drive directly into the middle of the street just to be able to see around the corner because there's huge piles of leaves, especially considering a lot of people in the area I live in have landscaping companies that come in and they blow all the leaves into the street. Can something be done so it's more regulated, so they're not taking up huge parking spots, areas just for cars to come around the bend? It's a little bit problematic, I feel. That's one thing I want to discuss. And also, there is an overpass between Windsor Road and Palisades by the Votee Park. It's been closed for about a year and a half or more. It's just been barred off. No one's allowed to go up and cross over it. Is anything going on to fix that issue? Is it something that's being addressed or just waiting? I go down that area all the time and it's always closed, and I'd like to be able to go over that overpass again.
Is that it, Ms. Krantz? You still
Yeah.
have, all right. Thank you for your time. Ma'am?
Hi, everyone. Lauren Roberti, Teaneck resident. I'm here today to inform you of the ongoing flooding that my neighbors and I along Lucy Ave and Fike Lane experience, and to urgently request your help in addressing the situation. During heavy rain and flash flood events, the current storm drain system at Lucy Avenue and Fike Lane has been failing. When the Fike Lane storm system fails, the water gets directed along a town-owned easement behind the Glen Point parking lot. However, due to the lack of inlets along that easement, coupled with the fact that the Glen Point raised the area's grade during its construction, this has resulted in a bathtub-like effect for my and my neighbors' properties on Lucy Ave. During both Hurricane Ida and Hurricane Debbie, we had up to 3 feet of floodwater in our properties, which caused heavy damage, leading to both significant financial loss as well as a lasting negative effect on our mental health. I remember going to sleep the night of Hurricane Ida with the water continuing to rise in my basement, not knowing just how high it would get by the time I woke up. And, ever since Hurricane Ida, I legitimately feel fear and anxiety every time I see a forecast of heavy rain in the weather report. Experiencing this now twice in a 3-year span, this ongoing financial and emotional stress, frankly, is not healthy or sustainable for me. And we know that with climate change, these events will only become more frequent. I'm here asking for your help to put in place an action plan to address and prevent this from happening again. I do appreciate having had the chance to speak with the town engineering department on this. And in speaking with them, I am encouraged that there does seem to be something that can be done, but I'm currently unclear on the timeline and scope. And in summary, I basically wanted to make sure that the mayor and council is aware of this situation. I'm aware from past town council meetings, as well as even today's, right? You provide some great information in the manager report for other projects as it relates to timelines and scope. And you even mentioned direct contact with residents of other affected projects. And I think that type of information is incredibly helpful. And basically, I would like to have, request that same level of planned action for my and my neighbor's situation with as much urgency as possible. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Someone on Zoom, Doug?
I have Sherry Ann.
Hi there, Sherry Han Eid, longtime Teaneck resident. I just have a question for the council, and I apologize if this has been gone over before, but I'm just still not clear about it. The presentation that we got today about the Stop and Shop area and behind Cedar Lane development. So if that is a pilot project where it's payment in lieu of taxes that the developers were getting, is it equivalent? Is the payment that they're giving us equivalent to the taxes that they're not paying? So if we're thinking that we're having families move into these apartment buildings, maybe with each of them having 2 children, is their payment that they're giving us, which from my understanding is about $1 million a year, which really isn't that much, is it equivalent to the taxes that we would have been benefiting from in this town that's already suffering with poor infrastructure? The resident who just spoke before me is worried about the flooding in her part of town, and I know there's flooding in many parts of this town, plus the school system that's already suffering. So I understand we need to develop, I understand we need the affordable housing, but how are we going to mitigate all of the crumbling infrastructure that we have if we're just building without thinking about all of these other questions? Wouldn't it make more sense to sort of solve the problems that we have already and then think about the development versus develop and then try to solve the problems that we've already created? Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Someone on this side? Mr. Rose?
Howard Rose, Teaneck resident. I'm going to hit a lot of items right now, I hope quickly. Regarding this whole thing with American Legion Drive, et cetera, I looked at Building C, and that's across the street from a store I have on Cedar Lane between American Legion Drive and Chestnut. I think it should be renamed, instead of Building C, Building B, standing for Behemoth, because it's huge, it's monstrous, and it's opposite single-story stores on the other side of the street. What's going to be the shading problem? What's going to be the intimidation problem of something that large next to everything else? On your agenda items on page 98, line 4, it has, and I quote, "We Weeks." That's W-E space W-E-E-K-S. And I'm not sure exactly what that's supposed to mean. It's a typo of some type. Maybe it's just weeks, but should it have been a number or whatever? On page 111, Jewish Family Services Food Pantry. Is that in addition to, in conflict with, or supplemental to Teaneck's Helping Hands? They have a budget of $110,000, of which $103,000 goes towards salaries, and then $7,000 goes towards space and supplies. Where's the food in that pantry coming from? Seems like all the money's being expended. There's a thing about getting excess military materials, which sounds great. Do we have storage space if we're successful? A lot of totals in the accounting section of the report. A lot of them don't have totals. When I see one item listed and then a total for it, and then I see 10 items listed in another area and no total for it, I would think that you want to have for transparency total amounts on all of these different areas. And that goes on, some pages have it, some pages don't, it should be consistent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Mr. Clerk, someone on Zoom?
Yaren? I'm sorry if I pronounced her name wrong. Please correct me.
Yaron Marciano, you're good.
Yaren.
I would just like to request, Teaneck resident, I'd just like to request that the township would consider a composting program, whether it's a curbside pickup or a dedicated collection area, perhaps in the community garden. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Gross.
Hi, my name is Yigal Gross, and I'm a Teaneck resident. I want to congratulate the 3 council members who were recently reelected to their positions. All 3 ran clean and respectful campaigns that demonstrated their commitment to Teaneck. I supported them because I believed they were the best choice for Teaneck, and I'm thankful that my fellow Teaneck voters chose to do so as well. At the same time, I think we all need to acknowledge that a significant portion of this town's residents voted for other candidates in this election, and we cannot let the thrill of an electoral win overshadow that. We still live in a divided town. Many of our neighbors feel disenfranchised, and we all need to work together to address that. Victory is not just getting more votes than the other guy. Victory is a friendly, cohesive town where everyone feels included and respected. Victory is having clean streets, beautiful parks, and great schools. Victory is keeping Teaneck diverse and open and finding a way to bring its constituent sub-communities together. And that true victory has not yet been achieved. It's the challenge that now lies before us. I believe that all of us, and this body in particular, are up to that challenge. Over the past year, I have gotten to know most of you. We have shared personal conversations about who you are and why you do what you do. I have come away from those interactions with real hope that you can achieve a lot together. You are all good people, civil servants who go above and beyond the call of duty, whose self-sacrifice is extraordinary, often in quiet ways that few people see. Now that this election is behind us, I hope that we can all find a way to come together. This town has seen difficult days, but let's put them in the past. Let's use this opportunity to hit the reset button at all levels. Let's listen to each other, including those who did not win this election. Let's find a way to make everyone feel included and respected. And to those listening at home, please, I want to make the following request, and I make it to myself as much as to anyone else. Let's all please focus our energy and passion on what we can agree upon. Let's talk to those we disagree with. Let's assume good intentions rather than nefariousness by our elected officials and each other. Hopefully, we can all find a way to move forward together and to make our communal discourse constructive and sweeter. Thank you all. Congratulations again to the winners, and my best wishes to all of us for success ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Gross. Doug, someone on Zoom?
Yes, we have Michael Klatsky.
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Klatsky, Teaneck resident, and tonight I want to start out by congratulating our three incumbents, Mayor Pagan, Councilman Organ, and Councilwoman Organ, and Councilman Schwartz on their reelection. You all did a great campaign, and we're lucky to have you all. I want to talk about what I would like to talk about tonight is a item that I felt really didn't get enough attention during our recent reelection campaign in Teaneck. The number one item on all of our agenda ought to be the cost of living increases for our public employees. There's many employees that work for the township that haven't gotten a raise since COVID. I mean, think of all of us. We've all gotten raises. They're coming up for a contract soon. They need to get paid more money. It's not fair that they're just basically on the same salary for years, and we're asking them to do the same job while everything else has gotten more expensive. Over the next couple of months and the next year, myself and all my fellow Teaneck residents are going to see a discussion about how much the tax increase is going to be in order to pay for this cost of living increase. And one of the things that really ought to be a piece of the discussion here is the ratables that are going to pay for that. There was lots of discussion about all kinds of unrelated things. Sorry about that. And I want to talk about just a quick topic, which I think now is the time to really get started on. The other day, I saw a posting from the proprietor of one of the local ice cream shops in Cedar Lane, and it was that the Guerrero ice cream shop is for sale. This confirmed to me that I think what some of you already know, but what we've seen slowly is that Cedar Lane's just not doing well. We've got lots and lots of non-retail stores right now, like services, like we've got where there should be a store that I can go into with my family to make it a destination. There's a LabCorp, lab workplace, a business for a second story or a side street maybe, or an office building. And we're seeing retail failing all up and down the block because there's just no foot traffic. It's a very wide street. There's very long distance between intersections in the core business district. We need a base of residents in the immediate area. We need to talk about this. You know, we need to demand a real plan. Crossroads, this is just a drop in the bucket, to be honest with you. We need a real plan to fill 75 restaurants on a Tuesday night at 8 p.m., to fill stores at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. You know, we need to get moving on this. Now's the time. If we wait anymore, the next thing we'll see every single business that we want to go to close up and turn into some service business or an accounting firm or something else, and or maybe another bank branch. And we'll be like, what happened? Time for action is now. Thanks. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Klatsky. Mr. Brown.
Oh, good. Yeah, Chris Brown, Teaneck resident, Bell Avenue. Apologies for coming in late. I missed the presentation. I ran into the Crossroads team outside, and we had a quick chat, just going over their plans. Also, some of my neighbors forwarded the revised concepts. Thank you for. Obviously I wasn't here, so I can't vouch for who said what, but for those of you that made comments and mentioned the pipe that runs under Beverly Road, or I'm sorry, the Beverly Road parking lot, and my understanding is you mentioned that the development has to be contingent on solving our drainage issue. Thank you for addressing that. I'm assuming that was mentioned, just because a couple of people mentioned it to me. So thank you. We appreciate that, and we appreciate you guys advocating for our street. We really can't have a building on that parking lot if we're not addressing the drainage problem, because if you're putting a building onto the parking lot and we have another IDA situation, the tanks on Sagamore, I think that they will help in what we had in August, but if we have another IDA situation and the tanks are overrun, whereas before, people that were parking in the parking lot during IDA lost their cars because of the water overflowing over there. If there's a building there, that water is just being pushed into our neighborhood. So that's not good. We had a conversation with our town engineer Councilman Organ, you were a part of that meeting. My neighbor Phil Yoke was there as well. And we had some ideas of, independent of anything, ideas on the Beverly Road lot that would be the solution for a drainage problem, and that included potentially, it has to be studied, pumping and further storage. But there's a solution to everything. Anything can be solved. It's just a matter of commitment. And thank you for advocating. So, look, I don't love the idea of an apartment building being constructed across the street from my house. I don't love it, to be honest with you. But I really can't live with flooding. I just, it's not livable. It's not tenable. I like living in this town. I'd like to stay in this town. So in order to be here, we got to fix the drainage problem. I have 28 more seconds, so I will switch gears a little bit. You mentioned the master plan. December 12th, we're going to have our next public hearing, hopefully adopting the document. Speaking for myself, I think it's a good document. We put a lot of time and effort into getting it to where it needs to be and where it is. And I think that it is a good roadmap for growth and development within the township of Teaneck. So hopefully we'll have something on December 12th.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Ms. Khan, I think I saw your hand up.
Good evening, Council. Reshma Khan, Ray of Sunshine, long-term Teaneck resident. First of all, congratulations to our council members for being re-elected, Councilwoman Karen Organ, Mark Schwartz, and Michael Pagan. We are really looking forward to some amazing leadership in your next term, and hopefully it will be representative leadership for all residents of Teaneck, everyone's future. I am here to read a statement from the Coalition of Neighborhood Associations Working for a Better Teaneck, which consists of 5 neighborhood associations and growing very quickly. As a first priority, the coalition calls for development that advances low density and responsible development. Development should preserve and enhance, not destroy our town's beautiful neighborhood character. It should include genuine public involvement and transparency. In many ways, process is as important as policy. In accordance with democratic principles, we call for transparency in governmental and business relationships, as well as meaningful and plentiful opportunities for residents to participate in decision-making processes. We believe that being transparent also leads to better decisions. A good process leads to attaining a better product. We object to the fact that the presentation made by Crossroads was not made available to residents ahead of time. So it may have been examined more carefully. The designation of Stop and Shop area as an AINR by the vice president of the developer Crossroads is wrong, corrupt, unacceptable. There's a conflict of interest there. So from the start, the AINR process has bypassed established zoning and excluded public participation in determining what kind of development is wanted in our communities. Only after the plan was developed was the public informed. There has been a huge turnout of residents at all of the public forums, and they have been demanded changes. At these forums and council meetings, nearly everyone expressed opposition to the plan and to the corruption involved. So we call on the council to immediately stop work on this AINR in Southwest Teaneck. That is the Coalition of Neighborhood Associations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Khan. Mr. Yup.
Good evening, Phil Yock, Teaneck resident. Congratulations to all the re-elected candidates. Council people, I speak to you this evening on behalf of the Coalition of Neighborhood Associations. In terms of making good decisions concerning development, we have strong concerns that actions to remediate infrastructure needs are not being addressed. One clear example of this follows. It is a well-known fact going back more than 50 years that the residential area bordering Beverly Road is known to flood during heavy rains due to an inadequate drainage infrastructure. On September 1st, 2021, as a result of sustained heavy rain during Tropical Storm Ida, Bell Avenue from Beatrice Street to Beverly Road parking lot took over 3 feet of rainwater. That was in the street, not necessarily in our homes. Residents in all of the surrounding streets suffered losses of cars and total destruction of finished basements. Even the Beverly Road lot flooded so badly that the cars parked there to avoid the usual flooding and escape damage all flooded and were destroyed. Some homes took on as much as 6 feet of water. A significant piece of the remediation plan presented to residents included a 100,000-gallon retention tank under the Beverly Road parking lot. Even if that is ultimately constructed along with the other measures proposed to improve the antiquated drainage system, including the 90,000-gallon detention tank expected to be installed in Sagamore Park next year, there is no guarantee, we were told there is no guarantee that it will completely prevent further flooding of streets, cars, and homes. So what happens if a building is built on the Beverly Road parking lot? In essence, a wall will be constructed that will block the flow of surface rainwater that flows downhill from all distant streets, causing it to back up to the immediate surrounding streets, increasing the risk of further flooding of homes and cars, and possibly flooding the ground floor of the building itself. Constructing an apartment building on Beverly Road that is sure to flood once again is an ill-conceived plan. For this reason, among others, the Coalition of Neighborhood Associations objects to the settlement agreement with Crossroads Companies. I just want to say, you know my opinion. I've expressed it here many times, so I speak now for myself. First of all, I feel for the young woman who came up here earlier and spoke about flooding. You know, when your house takes on water because of groundwater in the basement, that's stuff that generally can be remediated. When the street takes on 3 feet of water, when 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet of water comes into your home, that's another issue. That's not simply groundwater. I know lots of houses. My house used to get some water. I put in a French drain. I had no problem until Hurricane Ida. And then it came from outside. It didn't come from the ground. So keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yuck. Mr. Govin.
Paula Rogovin. I'm speaking on behalf of the Coalition of Neighborhood Associations Working for a Better Teaneck. We consist of 5 neighborhood associations. We call on the town council to conduct a traffic study of existing conditions, in order to determine the capacity for any plan being considered for development. In particular, the traffic study should include, but not be limited to traffic in these areas. 1, American Legion Drive, Chestnut Avenue, Linden Avenue, Larch, and all east-west side streets in the area. Entry and exit onto Cedar Lane. Garrison Avenue, Windsor Road, and all north, south, east, west side streets in that area. It should also include the question of pollution impacts from the traffic. Mornings and afternoons when families and buses drop off and pick up children at the 5 schools and childcare programs in the Southwest area. Mornings and evenings with rush hour traffic to and from Route 4 onto Cedar Lane. Days when several religious organizations in the area hold services and regular events. Current conditions for parking. The policy of encouraging residents to use municipal parking lots during snowstorms. The parking lots would be gone. The traffic a few times a week from residents whose cars are lined up for services at Never Alone again. The Coalition of Neighborhood Associations also opposes the giveaway of our 2 municipal parking lots in this area to any developer. We oppose the giveaway of our municipal parking lots to any developer. CNA therefore opposes any plans for the use of our municipal parking lots as part of the Stop and Shop settlement. The parking lots belong to the people of Teaneck. They must not be given away.
Thank you, Ms. Rogovin. The lady in the front.
My name is Olga Nui. I have been a resident of Teaneck since 1967. My son Donald Nui retired from the DPW last March. My stepson Dan Costa retired from the Teaneck Fire Department last year. I'm here to talk to you about the Garden Club of Teaneck, what it does, and what it means to me. I joined the Garden Club in 2004 after retiring in education for 25 years and in Teaneck most of those years. The Garden Club has been in existence since 1932, and they have been very active in the community. They have had the horse school program early on. When I came in, the director of that program could not do it any longer, and guess who took it over? At the time, it taught horticulture to students in the 3rd and 4th grades. Now it teaches that to grades kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade. It has different lesson plans for every grade that introduces or reinforces their science curriculum. It is broken up into 3 segments of 20 minutes each. The first teaches a lesson, then they plant something depending on their lesson, then they apply a plant for $1. If they don't have $1, we give them a plant. Now those plants that we sell are very special because they have been propagated by the members of the greenhouse starting in July from their personal plants. It's one way of giving to the children. I am very proud of that program and love it. Unfortunately, I got a stroke January 2020 and couldn't function the way I used to. It has been taken over, and the person doing it does a better job than me. Can you believe it? And that's not all we do for children. Nancy Cochran, a longstanding member of the greenhouse, has the Junior Garden Club. We have cultivated 4 beautiful gardens which are for the public, and we do much, much more. I still go to the greenhouse every Saturday when my group meets. The leader of that group always has a chair and a job that I can do waiting for me. It is the highlight of my week. It means so much to me to be able to do something and more to be useful. I just want you to be aware of this, a wonderful community that you have made possible in Teaneck.
Thank you, ma'am. Miss Eliyahu, I think I saw your hand up.
Debbie Eliyahu, Frankie, resident of Teaneck. This has been a really frustrating meeting for me because it had the Crossroads project, and all you have to do is say Crossroads to me, and these meetings go on as if everybody's really happy about it. It seems like there's a real divide here. This side is happy, this side, not so much. It goes on as if everything's wonderful and we're all agreed that the project should continue. It's as if the only issues we're quibbling about are little details like what should be the color of the kitchen curtains. I have yet to hear one resident say anything positive about the idea of building this project. It starts with the miserable way in which these areas were determined to be AINR and continues with the way in which the same individual who chose that area, who determined that it's in need of development, is going to redevelop it, which to me means nothing like rewarding him for a job well done. And finding out that they now have no experience with residential housing. So I don't think that Teaneck should be the guinea pig for teaching them how. I think Teaneck does not deserve that punishment. Also, whenever it's discussed affordable housing, nobody in Teaneck is going to get any of the affordable housing apartments, really likely. I did statistics my whole life. And when you're going to take how many residents there are in Teaneck, and it's going to be open to 2.3 million, I'll calculate the odds. Nobody from Teaneck is going to end up there. and maybe one is going to go to Teaneck residents. So talking about affordable housing really does not float my boat. The second thing is, if you really wanted more parking for Cedar Lane, that's not the way to get it. You're putting the parking lots as far away from the center of Cedar Lane as you possibly could. If you wanted really to do it, you swap it and you put that building all the way at the other end, and you put that parking structure up at the top. So, I mean, every time I see this thing, it just makes my blood boil. Anyway, I understand that Teaneck has never done a survey of how the residents feel about this project. And I would suggest that that would be a right way to do it. Maybe it should be done before anything more is done about the project, and any more effort is put into it, and any more money is put into it. And I think that if you found out what Teaneck thinks,
Thank you,
the
Ms. Eliyahu.
residents, then it might
Thank
just
you,
go away.
Debbie. Thank you, Debbie. Doug, someone on Zoom?
Marina, bringing in Marina. Legovoy. Marina Legovoy. Give her just a second.
Okay.
Hi, Marina.
Hi, my name is Marina Lugavoy. I'm also a long-term resident. I live on Beatrice Street, right 1 block away from where all the building C and all that is going to be built. I kind of just wanted to sort of reiterate, firstly, about the traffic situation. I have a dog and I walk my dog over that way every morning, and the traffic on Beverly and Garrison is just atrocious. A few months ago, when schools were open in the spring, I witnessed three accidents in 1 week on that corner. I can only imagine what it's going to be like when there's a garage there and buildings with, many residents coming. That was one thing I wanted to mention. The other, which I don't know if this is part of that's been discussed previously. I know they've talked about that there's going to be room for the farmers market, but I don't know if people realize, unless you walk there early in the morning, that there's a lot of especially the people who come in from Pennsylvania. They bring 2 huge trucks, which they load all their tents and their produce out. Where are they going to park once that farmers market is in that little strip that they're talking about putting it in? Are they going to have their trucks out on the street, adding to the traffic congestion? Or is it going to just put the farmers market completely out of business because people, vendors like them are not going to want to come anymore? Anyway, I just wanted to add that information to what's, the discussion of the project. Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you, ma'am. The lady next to Paula.
Hi, I'm Judy Green, coming on 50 years, towards it, living in Teaneck. I live on Tilden Avenue, which is an extension of Beatrice. I know the traffic is already bad there. Most of the time when I go someplace, I have to go through that crossing at Garrison and Cedar Lane. Sometimes it's backed up a couple of blocks. It's going to be a mess, but that's not my greatest concern. I'm concerned about all the inconsistencies. So it's already been mentioned that that area has been designated as an area in need of redevelopment. It's not a slum. I just don't see it. If that's the rationale for building there, then it's a non-rationale. And there are a lot of problems associated with it, as other people have been mentioning, such as the flooding. Secondly, what kind of luxury building is going to attract people in a parking lot? It's, these are supposed to be high-end, profitable buildings that are being built. They're not condos. I think your Crossroads person mentioned something about high rental. luxury apartments. What kind of luxury apartment is it in a parking lot? It's not something in Hackensack, on the scenic Hackensack River, which can attract perhaps high rentals because you look out and you see the river and the view. It's not that at all. So if that's a factor in pushing for this, then it's not going to work. It's not practicable. And maybe that has to do with the fact that Crossroads is a neophyte when it comes to building residential housing or residential buildings. And I wonder why a town as sophisticated as Teaneck would be taking newbies as their builders, unless there is some other reason for it. And I do want to know, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but who's going to profit from this? Who will profit from these buildings being built by completely inexperienced residential builders in an area that's not in need of redevelopment in the first place? There seems to me that there is some appearance of impropriety here, or at least there's no appearance of impropriety. I'm concerned also about the carbon footprint of these new buildings. People are talking about flooding. Hey, already 2024 has been named, and it's not even over, the hottest year we've ever experienced. That's probably true for the last 10 years, and it's going to keep on going. The floods will be worse and worse.
Thank
Okay.
you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Powers.
Dr. Powers, Teaneck. I want to begin by really encouraging you to pass the ordinance being proposed for introduction tonight, 30/2024, that your attorney's already talked to you about. One of the enormous frustrations of dealing with our land use boards is not knowing what it is that is actually going to be being proposed in some complete way, and then the way in which, once the process begins, and very often they're continued to, on into other meetings, we have no idea whether or not the continuation actually announced in the middle of a meeting is actually going to be carried forward into the actual time, like the meeting on Thursday, which was announced last week to be happening on Thursday. And then word came that the experts for the developer couldn't do that. And so that meeting was not going to occur. And tonight I find out that that's actually going to occur. We need a process. 30/2024 takes us part of the way, but not into the fact that we never really know ahead of time so the public can get informed, as what happened tonight. We should not have had a presentation at this point announced so far in advance and not actually know what it was that was going to be said. What in the world is actually happening with the Buddhist thing? We heard tonight, finally, an admission that Crossroads has a deal with the Buddhists because they built that facility that now it has to be demolished under this plan. My question is, where are those folks going to park? And do you really think that building that's going to be sitting over there immediately across from Bell Avenue is going to be conducive either for the Buddhists or for the flood problems that you've heard about again tonight? There are fundamental problems. Somehow, the way when this entire thing got going with Crossroads becoming designated, and now it has to have its own tenant get a free deal over on Beverly in order to make the whole thing work. And all we get is $1 million from it. And we're giving away our parking lots. This thing, it doesn't work, folks. Let's step back and try to figure out why it was that we had a settlement that looked anything like this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. Someone on Zoom, Doug?
Bring in Keith Kaplan.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and
Loud and
clear.
Keith Kaplan, Teaneck resident. Wanted to first congratulate council members Schwartz and Oregon and Mayor Pagan on their decisive re-elections. I wanted to ask about what appears to be a bit of a disconnect between a lot of the rhetoric we get related to land use and a lot of the reality. We hear a lot about smart development. We hear a lot about realistic development, not having high rises, but we don't hear a lot about the state mandates for affordable housing, that if we don't have a certain set aside, there's going to be builders' remedy suits, and builders will be able to run roughshod over our zoning rules. We hear issues, Board of Trustee members said that some of the new apartments we have pay nothing in taxes. I mean, it's flat out not true. How can we get better information to residents? That's, one of the issues that I wanted to ask. The second, regarding ADUs, a lot's been said about them, and I think they have a lot of value that they can add. And a lot of the pluses about them have been discussed. San Diego held a contest for the worst ADUs, and their ADU bonus program only went into effect in 2021. So they've had a lot of negative press about their ADUs. I'm wondering how much research has been done about the negatives related to ADUs in various places around the country. And I did want to ask about the shared services agreement with the Board of Education, Resolution 303. It provides them with gasoline for their equipment. I know that not very long ago, they paid a substantial amount of money for the solar panels everywhere. And I was just wondering how this works with their energy needs, what exactly it's covering. And lastly, I'm very happy to see that most passed with a decisive margin. And I'm hoping that there can be a plan to continue having modular bathrooms in each park, and that the residents can get some sort of sense of when the park near them might get one of those. We have about $500,000 or so in most every year. With less than 20% of that, we can get, one park done. Can we get, a bunch of these parks knocked out fairly quickly? Thanks again, and congratulations to the council members that will be returning, and have a great meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Clapland. Anyone in chambers? You sure? Otherwise, it's done. All right. Good and welfare is closed. Mr. Schwartz, can you
Yes,
please start
thank-
us off, sir.
Sure. Thank you very much. I'm just going to try to spend the next two or 3 minutes going over some corrections. It seems that comments were made and they just spiral downwards. We're not getting $1 million for the parking lot. The money projected, the $1 million projected, is every single year. The permit fees alone would probably be about $950 to $1 million. So putting that aside, I have no idea where the comment of neophytes and no experience residential housing. These were developers that built dozens of buildings, thousands of units over several decades. And perhaps it was something about the words condo and for rent or for purchase where that got into it, but absolutely not inexperienced in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, the comment about this meeting was announced so far in advance, it seemed like a criticism. I take it as a compliment. This meeting was set by the council about 2 or 3 months ago with enough notice so everyone can make plans accordingly. It was announced that there will be a presentation by Crossroads to the council. This is a council that has now been discussing this plan for several years, as mentioned. We have multiple community meetings, as mentioned, and I look forward to continue the process, but do agree with Mr. Brown that piping must be cured before anything is done. I think that's, at this point, common sense. It's a red line as well. As it relates to some of the other comments, the trains, the traffic studies will be done. Trains, we've built quite a bit on the trains in the last few years, on top of all our schools that are on trains, the train tracks, as well as our fire department, our ambulance corps. This is about 311 or so units has been reduced down to over several different sites. We built several buildings right now, 242 units, 238 units, 127 units. The traffic impact is minimal. However, if someone disagrees, and says that, well, they feel the traffic impact at 1-500 as an example is significant, please call me. We will meet out there in front of any of those buildings. 917-902-9303. We will meet on Teaneck Road. We'll meet on Windsor Road. We will meet wherever these sites gone up and look at traffic. As it relates to schools and all the schools, most of these units are 1-bedroom units. Some are studios, some are 2s. There will not be 2-3 kids, I believe the word was 2 children in any of these buildings. Our school board and the town did studies after every construction, and there were minimal children. I can go on and on, but I feel I just wanted to clarify those items. Thank you very much for your time.
Yes, thank you everyone for coming out tonight and calling in. Just a couple things I want to mention, and that is from a planning board perspective, yes, we are actively looking to pass the master plan. It goes without saying that we've invested a lot of time, energy, and effort into producing a product that's reflective of our township, that speaks to the vision of where we see ourselves going from a development perspective. Development is a good thing. Smart development is where we want to be. We want to be able to not just develop, but we want to be able to use the tools and the techniques that are only going to take our township in the right direction. So I would just say that when we look at things like affordable housing, it's important. It's because of the fact that we have a mandate to fulfill affordability when it comes to housing. I just want to say also that I believe that flooding in our community is something we really have to develop some resources to. I appreciate what we've done so far with Bell Avenue, but to, I believe, Miss Lori's point, when she came and spoke about Fike Lane and surrounding, there are other areas in town that we also need to analyze from a flooding perspective, because global warming is a real thing and we really need to address it. Just like we need to address development from a comprehensive perspective, we need to address things like flooding as well. We even have to, and I believe Mr. Klatsky had said about, speaking of business development, none of us, I'm a business owner, none of us want to see businesses go out. I mean, that's very, very disheartening to see, a business come in and then they have to leave. So as a part of our business plan, of our master plan should include initiatives that speak to businesses. We need to incorporate into our master plan, and to encourage development and to encourage investments within our town that speaks to our businesses being able to thrive and so forth in all areas, not just Cedar Lane, but Cedar Lane certainly, but also the other 3 business areas as well. So I just want to say that, going forward, I look forward to ways in which we can put our brains together, smartly come together, and to develop ways in which we are looking out for the township. And I think it starts with definitely passing the master plan sooner than later. Thank you.
Ms. Belcher, Ms. Organ.
Ms. Roberti, I'm very glad that the engineer was in touch with you. I hope that you had a good result with her, but if you'd like to reach out to us, I assume the manager will be in touch, but if you'd like to reach out to any of us, please do. We're happy to come look at your home and see what's going on over there. To Mr. Klatsky, we very much value our workforce, and we do take good care of them with raises and their contracts. Tonight was the first time that the majority of council saw the presentation from Crossroads. The zoning subcommittee had seen it, but that's only 3 members of council. In order for all of us to be together and see it, or a majority of council, it has to be done in the public, and that's why this was scheduled. So I hadn't seen this presentation until tonight, and I was happy to see it. But as their attorney said, and as we tried to make sure to say, I don't believe any serious attention would be paid to this without addressing flooding, without addressing traffic. These are things that we will make sure that our professionals will take a look at. You can rest assured. To anybody that came out and read a speech from a coalition of block associations, I know that these associations have formed and united, but in this campaign and in speaking to residents from all parts of town, I know that there are people that live in every quadrant of town and on every block who have their own feelings about things and who like to express them. And so it's very frustrating sometimes to hear these blanket statements read, where people may not agree with them and they may be read in their names or in their names of different areas of town, and they may not be represented. And so I urge anybody who has a feeling about things to reach out. It may not be your voice that is read in these statements. And if you have any questions, please feel free to send a letter or make a phone call, because we're happy to hear what you have to say. As far as the garden club goes, I was very happy to hear that there is a grant coming up, because I know that if the roof doesn't fit the bottom of the greenhouse, it's not going to work. But I'm so happy to hear that there is a possibility of us getting a whole greenhouse for you. And I love the idea of composting. I don't know if that's something that you guys are willing to take on. You have it already. You're doing it already. Great. Okay,
sorry,
we're
I'm
not
sorry.
allowed to
We
do that.
can't-
And
we
no,
can't
but if
do it back
Mr.
and forth. I'm
Marciano
sorry.
wants to reach out to the garden club, that sounds fantastic. And as far as the leaves go, I know they all fell at the same time and they're dry and they're blowing back out into the streets. And the gardeners are blowing them all into big piles in the middle of the street now. It's just a perfect storm of dry leaves in the middle. I'm so happy to hear that we have 8 crews and not 4 out and about. And I hope that they're all picked up, and we will keep picking them up until they're all picked up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Organ. Ms. Goldberg.
Thank you. So regarding the leaves, if there's any pile that's particularly dangerous, please reach out to the manager and she will address that. If other than that, there is a schedule, and I'm really happy that the crews have their spots this year like last year, and the leaves will be picked up at. But if there is a dangerous pile, please reach out. Regarding Spike Lane and Lucy, if you want to give me a call after the meeting to set something up, 845-545-2582. I'm happy to come take a look. No one should have anxiety when it rains. We've heard this from the Bell Avenue neighbors. We don't want it anywhere else. And I agree with what Councilwoman Belcher said about the flooding and infrastructure. The state has a plan with mandates coming out next year, which is why I raised it last meeting that we have to figure out a way of how we're going to meet these new requirements, which include stormwater, regarding, meeting the mandates and paying for them. And that's a huge piece to it too. Your own about the composting. The Environmental Commission has been talking about composting for the last few meetings. So I encourage you to come to that meeting and talk at Good and Welfare about it. There's some really good information. And Mr. Rose, I want to thank you for pointing out that typo, because I do. And other than that, regarding the grant application, these are private nonprofit getting the grant money that we're supporting. The grants are actually coming from the county and HUD. So we don't really have oversight in the organizations, but it's their grant. So thank you for that. Thank you.
Goldberg, Deputy Mayor G.
So tonight was the first night that I also saw the Crossroads updated plan, and I have, similar concerns as my colleagues. I don't believe we can proceed without making sure that the flooding issues are addressed. We definitely don't want to build a wall and create more flooding into residential homes. I would also like to see more intentional coordination with the key stakeholders in the area. I was surprised to learn that they hadn't spoken to the owners of those 3 homes that are going to be sort of horseshoed around. So I would like to see that happen as well. I'm also concerned about the traffic issues. Just these past couple of weeks with the construction that's been going on in Cedar Lane, it's been a nightmare. I know several of you have probably gotten caught trying to make that turn on onto American Legion Drive, and you can wait 3 or 4 lights to make that turn. And so there's going to be construction in the future, and I'm just concerned with all that development. Can you imagine what that might look like? So it's just really, really concerning. I want to thank Yigal Gross for the comments that he made. I am very much looking forward to, bringing the community closer together. I understand that there's been a lot of divide, and the more that we can reach out and find common ground, I think the better. And so I'm looking forward to trying to do that over the next 2 years. I love there was a suggestion about regulating where piles are assembled. I wonder if that's something that we can investigate. Are there other towns that have figured out what's the best way to address the leaf piles? I know it's a perfect storm of things that we can't control, but I think it is creating a little bit of a safety issue on many blocks. So if that's something we can look into, that would be great. And then finally, I just wanted to congratulate my colleagues on their reelection. I think you're a little bit crazy for signing up for another 4 years, but congratulations, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Ms. G, as always. Thank you to our residents for coming out tonight and participating. Ms. Kratz, when it comes to leaf collection, you are right, and we are working on it as quickly as possible, so please be patient with us. Ms. Roberti, we will ask our manager and our engineer to look into that flooding issue on Lucy Ave and Fike Lane furthermore to see how we can help with that. Mr. Brown, thank you for your comments, and thank you for your advocacy for your neighbors on Bell Avenue, because we're going to figure this out for y'all and get it fixed for y'all. Ms. Alda, we are going to get the Garden Club fixed for y'all, because the Garden Club has helped so many people over the decades, and we're going to find a way to fix that structure. And I will stop there so our manager can address any comments. Like Ms. Hatchmat.
Yeah, I may have misspoke earlier about the Cedar Lane paving. I just want to make sure I reiterate that milling is starting on Monday, November 18th, in case I said the 8th. I just wanted to make sure I confirm that date for everyone. And the following week is scheduled possible paving. I will continue to send updates via Nixle, robocall when we get closer by end of week, so everyone is fully notified. Also about the push piles that Deputy Mayor G said, I will work with Trevon and see if we could work something out. I know some of the areas do get really big piles to get them removed a little quicker. So thank you for bearing with us. We're doing our best. That's all I have, Mayor.
Yes, thank you. So I want to apologize to the council. We had previously discussed in closed session a lawsuit involving the township. Gonzalez versus Teaneck involved someone who was riding their bike and was got into an accident and was injured at a pothole and sued the township. We were supposed to have a resolution approving a settlement agreement with her on that was on the agenda. Looking through it and realized it slipped through and it didn't get put on the agenda. If the council would be willing to consider it, we can have Doug read the resolution prepared in record.
You guys okay with that? Yeah. That works.
I got clearance. Okay. Yep. This is going to be resolution 320-2024. It's not in my book. Sorry. A resolution approving a settlement in Gonzalez v. Teaneck on April 17th to 2023. Leanne Gonzalez, sorry. I apologize. An infant by her mother initiated a lawsuit against the township related to a May 9th, 2022 bicycle accident. And whereas the parties to the litigation have engaged in settlement negotiations, and whereas as a result of those settlement negotiations, all controversies between the parties have been tentatively resolved, subject to the payment by the township of the sum of $32,500, subject to the approval of such settlement by the Township Council. And whereas the governing body is of the opinion that the settlement is in the best interests of the township, now therefore be it resolved by the governing body of the Township of Teaneck for the reasons set forth above, that the tentative settlement reached by the parties as and to be memorialized in an appropriate settlement agreement be and hereby is approved, and be it further resolved that the mayor hereby is authorized to implement this resolution and execute any documents necessary in connection therewith.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Mr. Clerk, we can move on to the consent agenda now. Our next order of business is the consent agenda, and all matters listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature by council and be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If any discussion is desired by council, that particular item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Mr. Clerk, can you please read the amount of the bill list into the record?
Yes, so like the mayor mentioned, we have 4 sets of minutes. Resolutions 298 to 320 are recently added 1-2024, and the bill list in the amount of $17,797,126.46.
So moved, Schwartz.
Second.
Councilman Schwartz, Councilwoman Belcher.
Yes.
Councilwoman Goldberg,
Okay, wait, I'm gonna go one by one here for a second, sorry, so. Yes on 298, 299, no on 300. Yes on 301, 302, 303, 304, 305, 306, 307, 8, 9, 10, 11, abstain on 312. Then yes, and then abstain on 319, and abstain on the bills. You need me to do that again?
no, wait, I think I got it.
So it's an abstain on the bills list, 319, 313, and a no on 300.
Abstain on bills list, 319,
And 313.
313.
Oh, wait, no, abstain on 312, 319, and bills list, and a no on 300, and a yes on everything else.
No on 300.
Yes.
313 is nothing. It was 3.
It's a yes on 313, abstain on 312.
And 319 was abstain,
Yes,
and bills list abstain.
right.
Roger that. Councilwoman Organ,
Yes to all.
Deputy Mayor Katz,
Yes, and abstain on the bills list.
Deputy Mayor G.
Yes to all.
Mayor Pagan.
Yes to all.
Adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Our next order of business is our introduction of ordinances. Mr. Clerk, can you please read the title of the ordinances into the record?
Yes, we have a few. We have ordinance number 28-2024, amending the township code to revise parking laws in regards to towing, I believe that one was. I screwed up the title there. That's my fault. Ordinance number 29-2024, amending the township code to revise various municipal fees. Ordinance number 30-2024, amending the township code for the township of Teaneck to modernize and clarify procedures for land use application. Ordinance number 31-2024, amending the township code to revise development regulations regarding fence permits. That's all, Mayor.
I move to approve all ordinances on first reading, Mr. Clerk.
Second.
Councilman Schwartz? Oh, okay. That's cool. Councilwoman Belcher?
Yes.
Councilwoman Goldberg?
Yes.
Councilwoman Organ?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Katz?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor G?
Yes.
Mayor Pagan?
Yes.
Introduced.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. That concludes our business. I make a motion to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight. Please get home safely and have a peaceful evening. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Almost one and the same. Oh, that was you? Okay, cool. Your first time here.
Yeah, first time in person, yeah.
Sorry for such a bummer reason.
First, such a what?
Sorry that it was a bummer reason that brought you in here.
Oh, I know,
Flooding's no
thank you.
joke.
Yeah, yeah. Just,
Big deal.
yeah, just want to, like, because I heard great updates around the Bell Ave, so I just wanted to make
You
sure.
gotta
guys-
light the fire.
Yeah,
you know what
exactly.
I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Figuratively speaking.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much.